Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. This is the newest version, the newest format for my week of series. It used to be that I would dedicate an entire week to just one eyeshadow palette, and I uploaded one video per look, and that was the week of content. Now, as of today's video, I am reformatting that series. I thought that it was getting a little bit redundant, a little dry, and honestly, most of my regular viewers might not have been interested in seeing 5 videos for the entire week, all the same palette. I feel like maybe you guys wanted a bit more variety. So the new format is that I'm going to show you the same amount of looks, but this time they're going to be condensed into one video. I'll speed up the looks and just do a voiceover telling you what I did, what shadows I used for each look, and then showing you the final result. So you still get 3 to 5 looks with one palette, but it's not 3 to 5 days worth of content. I hope this is a better format for everyone. It is more work on my end, but I really don't mind. So let's get going with a week of Sickly Sweet from Blend Money. I'm going to start off this video by doing a subscriber request with specific shades from the Sickly Sweet palette. Of course, this entire video is only using the Sickly Sweet, but I did recently-ish have a subscriber say that she just couldn't quite get into it, and she listed for me the shades that she had used, and I said that I would do a look with those shades. The fun part is that I have 2 different ideas using those same colors, so I'm going to show both of them first in today's video. The shadows that Danielle actually had used and wanted me to play with are Cupcake, Cotton Candy, Ruffles, Melancholy, Gloom and Doom, and Crying Sparkles. That's 4 shimmers and 2 really dark mattes. So thanks, Danielle. Way to make it easy on me. But I do have 2 different ideas, and I like the challenge. So I'm going to prime my eyes with the Glam Light Icing Primer. Let's zoom in and do these 2 looks. My first plan for a look was to do a simple gradient of colors, kind of following the rainbow a bit. So I start with the shade Cupcake, which is that vanilla color. I did spray my shimmers, and Cupcake I laid down on the inner quarter or so of the lid. Then I went into the shade Ruffles, which is the pinky orangey leaning shimmer. I thought it would work well with the vanilla shade of Cupcake and be a smooth transition. The third shade I laid down was the other shimmer, Cotton Candy, which is the true pink shimmer in the palette. Again, all of these shades are sprayed so that I can control where they go. After I laid down Cotton Candy, I went into the blue shimmer. It's not that it was the darkest and I wanted it therefore in my outer corner. It was just that it was so different from the other pink tones, especially the pink tone that had some orange in it. I thought that it would transition most smoothly from the pink into the blue because there might be a hint of purple in there as well. I used my finger eventually for that shade because it wasn't laying down quite as much as I wanted it to with the brush. Finally, it's time to pick up some mattes. I started with the shade Melancholy and put it on the middle or so of my lower lash line. Then I dipped into Gloom and Doom. Melancholy is a more neutral tone and Gloom and Doom was a darker blue-purple kind of shade. Gloom and Doom I put in the outer corner because that worked nicely into the blue shimmer that I had laid in the outer corner. I didn't really want a stark wing here. I just kind of created a bit of the triangle or arrow shape and then softened it all. I wanted this lower lash line to be quite smoky and different from the upper lid space, which honestly wasn't hard given the fact that it's a pastel palette and my lower lashes are all dark. I did end up bringing Melancholy all the way to the inner corner because I decided to place the shade Cupcake on top of it, and I wanted the contrast of the brightness of Cupcake, but then to sort of set it on top of the dark mattes, hoping that it would bring even more contrast. You can see me mouthing here that I really liked this look. For both of these first 2 looks, I used Black in the Waterline 1065 Terracotta liner on my lips, followed by the ColourPop lip oil in Paper Pansy, and then I have been using the Festival palette from Juvia's Place as a face palette because there are several blush colors in there and also a few highlighters. Starting look number 2, I used the shade Mahogany. I put this in my outer corner. This is one of the 2 dark mattes that I'm using. Mahogany is a little bit more of a neutral leaning kind of color. And I put this in my whole outer corner, created a bit of a transition. Anyway, I laid this in my outer corner and created the shape that I like. Next, I took the 2 shimmers, Ruffles and Cotton Candy, Ruffles being the pinky orange and Cotton Candy being the true pink. I laid Ruffles on the center of the lid and then Cotton Candy on the inner half or so, just blended them together so smoothly. The colors work beautifully together. I used Gloom and Doom again on my lower lash line, put it in most of the lower lash line. And then I took my favorite shimmer in the palette, I think, honestly, is the Cupcake shade. It's that buttery vanilla yellow, and I put Cupcake on the rest of the lower lash line, totally forgetting about the blue shimmer, which you will notice in a minute here. Those were my two ideas using the colors that Danielle specifically requested. It's pretty atypical for me to do a whole lid of shimmer, no mattes at all in the lid space, but I thought it would be pretty to do just a little rainbow gradient of the shimmers because they're all so beautiful. They work so well together. The whole palette is great. It's a great pastel palette. The sparkles are beautiful. The mattes are so easy to work with. They're so impactful. Everything works together beautifully. And then I brought some depth onto the lower lash line. And then on this side, this is more along the lines of what I typically do. I thought it'd be fun, again, to do a bit of a gradient. That's the easiest way to work with a lot of shimmers, is try to find some kind of a rainbow. Try to find some gradient from one color leading into the next. Anyway, I decided to do the more neutral of the two mattes, the less purple one, and work with the pinky, orangey, peachy shimmers, and then wait a minute. Just now realizing I didn't use the blue. I intended to use it, I forgot. Anyway, we'll just lay that down really quick right here. I thought that it'd be easy to do the pinky shimmers into a more neutral matte, and then on the lower lash line, the darker purple matte into the blue shimmer. And the blue shimmer, of course, would work just fine as an inner corner highlight as well, but I love this yellow shimmer shade. It's amazing. Okay, so let me make sure I got all of them. The pink shimmer, the peachy shimmer, the neutral matte, and then the purple matte, the blue shimmer, and the yellow shimmer. Okay, that's all 6. I can't believe I forgot that. Anyway, Danielle, I hope you have enjoyed these looks. I hope that they've given you some inspiration if you want to honestly just play, because this palette is so user-friendly, because all the colors look amazing together. Everything is just kind of rainbow sherbet. It's all gonna work. So play, have fun, experiment. I'm gonna send you guys now over to the rest of the looks for today's video. I'm going to start this look with the shade Pout. This is a beautiful, almost periwinkle matte, although it has a tiny bit more blue, I think, than to be a true periwinkle. Maybe more of a sky blue. Then I'm going to go into the shade Just an Act. Honestly, this shade was just too much fun. I couldn't seem to help myself. I put this on the rest of the crease and then softly blended it. It might take a bit of time to blend a white-based eyeshadow into your skin tone. The darker you are, the more ashy it might be. I didn't have any trouble, it just took a bit of time. Then I grabbed the shade Brooding to deepen up the outer corner only. I used my finger to pick up the shade Sprinkles. This is the green shimmer in the palette. It's really pretty, but I didn't want to be fully monochromatic, so then I went back to my favorite shadow in the palette called Cupcake. This is that buttery yellow. Oh, it's so lovely. I did want some contrast, especially at the inner corner, so I used my finger again to blend Cupcake into Sprinkles. Beautiful transition. Now with a smaller brush, I'm grabbing Pout again and using this on most of my lower lash line. I start at the inner corner. I do use this as an inner corner highlight as well. And then I go back into Brooding to have a nice even merge into the outer corner. Finally, I dip back into Crying Sparkles, this lovely light blue shimmer. I made sure I sprayed it so I could control where it goes, and I put this on the inner part of the lower lash line. I used white on my waterline for this look. I've got the ColourPop blush in the shade Matchmaker on my cheeks, a bit of bronzer from Physicians Formula, and my Aurora Glow kit for a highlighter. Here now, starting with the shade Morose. This is a lovely purple with kind of an interesting undertone. It reminds me a lot of the Glowing Iris palette from Kaleidos. I put this in my whole outer corner area. Then I was curious about the differences in tone in this palette because while it's a great pastel palette, I do think it has a little bit of redundancy. I picked up the shade Frills and Thrills, which on the lid didn't look terribly different, especially once you start blending together with other shades or softening and blending out. They kind of look a bit too similar. Again, like the Glowing Iris quad. My goal for this look, honestly, was to recreate the feeling of the Fête de Provence palette from Nomad Cosmetics, which is generally a purple and yellow color story. They're colors you don't often find together. So here is the shade, the Center of Attention. I put this on my entire inner crease area, inner corner, and then I used it to sort of soften into the purpley colors. I didn't want to fully overlap because I knew I would get a weird combo, and then I would lose the vibrance of the colors themselves. Dipping briefly back into Gloom and Doom, I deepened the outer corner. I didn't want to cover the purple again, I just wanted to bring in some depth. I might have brought in a little bit too much depth, but remember, you could always add more, you can't take away, so sometimes you have to learn that the hard way. Now it's time for some shimmer, so of course I'm going back into Cupcake because it is just a great contrasting shade for almost anything in the palette, honestly. It's beautiful, it performs like a dream, I love it. So here's Cupcake all over the lid up until the outer third or so. Then I dipped into the purple shimmer in the palette. That one is called Big Feelings. And I laid that between Cupcake and the purple mattes. Standard operating procedure to help bridge the gap between color and formula. Now for the lower lash line, I take center of attention again. I started at my inner corner and you can see my reaction here as I lay it down. Wow, it was just amazing. So pigmented, so vibrant, so opaque for a pastel. This is seriously an amazing pastel palette. So center of attention I put on the entire lower lash line. And then I dipped once more into Gloom and Doom for my outer corner. There are not a ton of deep shades in this palette, so you don't have a ton of choices, but you have enough to make it work. To finish off this look, I don't remember what color lip liner I used, but I've got the ColourPop Glowing Lip in the shade Tickled Pink, black in my waterline mascara, a little bit of bronzer from Physicians Formula, and my Aurora Glow Kit from Anastasia Beverly Hills for a highlighter. Today I want to see how neutral this palette can go because it's quite colorful. I think that I'm going to focus on a couple of these more orange shades that I haven't really touched yet. And then maybe this shade up here, Rosy Cheeks. As far as the shimmers, I have used all of these shimmers, I think, in this video. There are only 5 in the palette, so I might just dive back into my favorite, which also happens to be the most neutral of the 5. That's the plan. Let's go. I started this look with the shade Bellyache, which apparently is basically my skin tone. I had to look closely at the mirror again and again to see if anything was actually happening. It was visible, but not super on my skin tone. Then I went into the shade Party Dress. I used this in the rest of the crease, and I kind of ended up mixing a little bit of Bellyache into this shade just to help transition. But honestly, it was already pretty light, and it just made everything so smooth and into my skin tone. I used Melancholy to deepen this look. It's the most neutral of the shimmers in the palette. It's the one that has the least actual color, not blue, not purple, not red, etc. It was really easy to lay this down on top of the other shades, and I just gently worked and worked until I got the shape that I wanted and a nice blend. Then I went back into that light yellowy orange color and just went over everything to make it all smooth together. Of course, by this time it's no surprise to anyone that I went back into Cupcake. I sprayed it and then I laid it on the whole lid space inner corner all the way up to meet the mattes in the outer corner. I made sure it was applied pretty liberally, and then I went back into my blending brush and again smoothed over all the colors, blended everything together nicely. It's a pretty neutral look, so it was very easy to take the colors, dip into various back and forth, and make an even, seamless transition. Then I picked up Ruffles again, the pinky orangey shimmer, and I used that to help go from Cupcakes into the mattes. It just tied in slightly to the mattes that I had used in the crease area. For my lower lash line, I decided to take the Just Peachy shade and run that on the whole length of it. It's a really nice, soft pink color, and it gave me this light mist or glow of light baby pink on the lower lash line. Then I took the shade Rosy Cheeks, which made me think of Mary Poppins when their children are singing, "Rosy cheeks, no warts, play games all sorts." Yeah, that's where my brain goes. So this Rosy Cheek shade was really remarkable, very pigmented. And I put that on the outer half or so of the lower lash line. I went back into Melancholy and deepened again in the outer corner, blended into the outer V. To finish this look, I put the bright pink from ColourPop, the shade Boots, in my waterline. I used the Italia Deluxe Lip Liner 1065 Terracotta, and then I filled my lips in with the ColourPop Glowing Lip in the shade Desert Aura, BH Cosmetics Frosé palette for a highlighter, and the Très Luce blush in the shade Ready to Bounce Vacation. And there we go. I hope you guys really have enjoyed all of these looks. Do tell me in the comments below which one you liked the best. Out of all 5, oh, I don't know. Today's might be my favorite. It's hard to know because it's a great palette and I have really enjoyed every look I've done with it. Tell tell me in the comments below which one you like the best. Tell me if you've enjoyed this new format for the week of. I really value your feedback. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for sharing this time with me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Check the description box for my week of playlist, including lots of other palettes as well as a few other things that you might enjoy. And I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye.